Okay, it is 6:33. Why don't we go ahead and start with our work session? We're going to have a work session before council on the pool. Is it the pool feasibility study? Who do we have with us? Lee?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and I'm sorry, this is Geertz with the city manager, and Nick had well, they had a baby a little sooner than they had expected. And so if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, our council has the feasibility study and the information was provided to them in their packet. And so, yeah, I'll go ahead and hand it on over to you.
Yeah, so my name's Patrick Egan. I'm with One Design and Engineering. I've been working with Nick on the pool study. And basically the study was focused around what should the city be looking at for replacement rather than should the pool be replaced or the building be replaced. So that was really the focus of our study. I'm not sure, with Nick not being here, has everybody seen the packet or the plan that was put together?
Briefly.
Yes,
Okay.
we provided that to them on Friday, so yep, they've had, and if you just kind of, talk them through it and they'll, which page we need to start with and.
Yeah, let me pull up what I did here. Hold on a second here. Sorry, I'm just getting my documents prepared here. I wasn't sure exactly what was going to be, if you guys are
Nope,
going to have it on screen or me, so. Okay. So let me share. Can everybody see my screen?
We see you.
See me? Okay. Maybe I should hit the share button. There we go. Okay. Do you see a concept plan on your screen?
Yes.
Okay. So what we did is I prepared two options for Nick. This is actually laid on top of the existing site in the park. If we zoom in, you can kind of see the existing sidewalks that run around the front. We can kind of see this curved part of the pool deck that's on the existing in the pool house. In both options that I'm going to show you, it was a replacement of the pool vessel, it was a replacement of the building, and then what we call the pool deck and fencing. Really tried to minimize any extent into the park and any reconstruction within the park, really trying to limit it to the footprint of what you have. Roughly speaking, from a water area standpoint, this pool vessel is approximately the same square footage as what you currently have, right around 8,000 square feet. The pool house itself is a little bigger. Part of the reason we did that is we took the pool mechanicals from this building number 14, incorporated it into the pool house itself, and then looked to repurpose this to provide some public restrooms and storage for the rest of the park. So as part of this rebuild, we're gaining a little bit of efficiencies with our piping and our systems and services by combining it into one space. I do have a footprint of this building that we can look at in a little bit. There's a legend of amenities, and these are really options, things for consideration. By no means is this final. You can choose to change and adjust this however you feel. But the basic intent is to have a nice zero entry with a small play feature, some spray features. These would be floor gushers. Zero entry would go down into an area that's sort of a mid-depth activated zone. We're talking 3.5 feet at this line, 5 feet at this line across here. We would have basketball hoops in 2 locations. This little feature here is an aqua zip, so it's sort of a zip line. A smaller water slide, 12 foot in height. Keep a diving board, a couple dedicated lap lanes that you could use during the morning, during lunch. You could close them down during active swim in the afternoon. We have some features here called a climbing wall, an aqua climb. A lot of lounge chairs, shading. There's a real lack of shading there currently. This is a shade structure that we often see people use those as rental spaces. People come in for birthday parties. This is a nice way to designate an area for people to come rent a space out, put their towels, birthday cakes, whatever, have their own dedicated space that's separate from a shaded concessions area up by the pool house. We do address lighting, understanding that operation tends to go later in the evening. I believe Nick said would run to 9 o'clock, sometimes 10. So we were addressing this to be lit at night, but we want to be cognizant of the neighborhood to the east being up on this page. Any questions about this basic layout or why some of these options are being shown versus some other ideas? The main focus being trying to activate as much of the pool as you can and hit all age groups, from young to elderly.
Any questions, council?
Questions up and running.
Okay. So we'll flip to option 2. So option 2 is a variant of the first option, but this one really creates more zero entry space, shallow space. You'll see we still keep a lot of the same features, such as the basketball hoops, the climbing wall, lap lanes, diving board, water slide. It gets a little bit more efficient with this area. And one of the problems with zero entry pools is they do take up a lot of real estate to get to a 3.5 foot water depth. This starts to minimize that excess area, makes it a little more efficient. I'll have to pull out my other files. I can't remember exactly what the footage is, but this is an alternate option where we're heavier on the 0 to 0 inches to 1 foot deep area for little ones, and then minimizing that transition zone. Again, a lot of the same features, with the shade structures, lounge chairs, lighting. It's really just a reconfiguration of this shallow area. The next sheet is we had some photometrics done for the pool deck to make sure we were showing proper amount of light poles, looking at the footage. We have some areas where we'll need to augment, but this can be addressed through design. This was just a simple photometric plan. These are examples of the light fixtures that we would be using. Some blade units like that, some downlights on the building, and then these are LED lights for the pool. This here is the swimming pool I did in La Crosse about 5 years ago. And it uses the LED lighting. They actually make these where you can color change them. You can theme them with a programmer. And so you can do reds and blues and yellows, you can rotate them. So if you have events or anything special you want to do, you can play with them in that way.
And
From
this is in light in the pool or out and around the pool?
this is in the pool vessel. If I zoom in here, you can kind of see some white dots.
Yeah.
there. That's a pool light just on white. So
Okay.
it lights up, gives you this really nice blue color. There's another light inside the pool as well. They're just, these are about half the size of what you're used to looking at, you know, the big 8-inch, 10-inch round pool lights. These are all LEDs, so they're pretty low power, really efficient. And they really do a nice job. It's a good product. Yeah, it's hard to see these sort of short lights here. That's reminiscent of what we would typically use around perimeter of the pool for security and lighting up the pool deck. I can provide better pictures of that. From a pool house standpoint, this is your front entrance. This is actually facing south. The pool would be up in this area, so you'd have a central lobby to bring patrons in. They would sign in or pay for their daily admission or show their pass here at the admissions desk. And then you come into your men's and women's restrooms with the showers, and we no longer really discharge them to the deck anymore. We, from a security standpoint, we like to make sure that, you know, if dad is with a son and daughter, or babysitter has, you know, a boy and a girl with them, that the children can come in and they have to come back out to a centralized point where you receive them, as opposed to wandering out on the pool deck and maybe losing track of them. So we tend to like this centralized receiving area where you could then go out on the pool deck. We also put in these family style restrooms. So if you do have a boy and a girl with you, you can come into a restroom, get them changed, do whatever you need to do in your own private space. Some people elect to put some, you know, a shower rod and curtain to have a small little spray off shower within these restrooms as well. That's really going to be the, you know, your guys' preference if you want to do that. We see it kind of go 50-50 with communities as to, you know, almost all of them really like these private showers off the pool deck, as opposed to having to walk back into the building and come into the restroom. We get a lot of positive feedback on these restrooms. We do have a concessions area that is open to admissions. So you can have an attendant, lifeguards that are on break or it's not their shift, they can work concessions. They do have their own lifeguard space where you can have lockers and storage for their equipment and their personal goods. And then a secured office. You can keep a small safe with money, all your records, safety data stuff in the secured office. And then we have a storage that we would use for help supply concessions and then anything administratively. We'll typically do this casework here. This is countertop with open face adjustable shelving underneath, so you can stack a lot of materials under there as well. What you put in this concessions is up to you. I've shown space for a refrigerator, a 48-inch refrigerator, a large chest freezer, a couple work tables. There's enough space. You could put a hot dog roller, you could put a popcorn machine. You know, we're looking at this stuff as being sort of pre-packaged food that would help keep you away from having a 3-compartment sink and grease interceptor, things of that nature, trying to keep it simple. And then over here, we have a pool mechanical room where we'll have the pumps, filter, dedicated acid room with access that is secured. Oftentimes, what I'll do is the circulation pump will be running full time. If you have other pumps that serve like a water slide or spray gushers, we'll put those switches in the lifeguard room or the main office so that when staff gets there in the morning, they can toggle those on and the features will run so that you don't have to have your high schoolers coming back into the pool mechanical room. We really prefer to keep staff out of there if they don't need to be in there. Let the pool administrator go in there. There's really no reason to go in there unless you're going to be topping off the chlorinator with tablets or briquettes, or if you needed to go through the backwashing sequence. But from a daily operation, you can turn everything on and off right from the lifeguard room in one centralized spot. Any thoughts or comments on the pool house itself? I should say this would also be a winterized building, so it would not be operational in the off season.
It would not.
It would not.
It would not be. We would shut it down.
And this is larger than what we currently have.
It's similar and it's a little bit deeper, a few feet deeper. It's a little bit wider, but mainly that's because of the pool mechanical room. If we go back here, you can kind of see your old building was about like that. So we're gaining about this much in extra building. Primarily because we're taking it from here. But this now becomes bathrooms for the park where your playground is to the north and the other amenities. This could be more of a year-round building that serves the park and, you know, in the off season.
Actually, one of the portable commons and.
Are
Some
those, are those windows at the top, of the schematic? Like, where it says restroom, plumbing, restroom, are those like windows?
these are doors.
Oh, leading out onto the deck.
Yeah, correct. Now,
Oh,
I've
okay.
done these with transom lights above them so that you have daylight in them. I'm not a
Ah.
big fan of dark restrooms personally. So we've done it where we put like a piece of glazing above the door to let daylight in. Because these will have occupancy sensors in them, and maybe you're using the facilities and the light goes out on you and now you're in a dark room. At least if you have some glazing above the door, you can keep some daylight in it. We do tend to, it doesn't show up here, but if further development of the schematics, I do try to put high windows in these walls. Maybe they start at 6'8" or 7'4" to help get some daylight in here. When they're inboard like this women's, and this could be women's or men's, it doesn't matter, we can flip them however. This one would be a darker room, so maybe something that could get some daylight, a solo tube or something would not be a bad idea.
Like in the seat, like in the roof or something, or?
Yeah, just to get some daylight, some natural light in there, just so it's not a dark space when the lights are out.
Okay. Okay.
But you would have a window here. This would be a sliding window so admissions can see people coming and going. The doors are almost always propped open. Multiple windows off of the concessions in the office and the lifeguard. We try to heavily window the pool deck side for office and for the pool director and the lifeguard staff. We want them to see the pool deck, have access off the pool deck. We even put, for the water slides, we even put an emergency stop here in the lifeguard room so someone can pop the emergency button or toggle it off in here. And we, you know, in Wisconsin, we have to put them up on the water slide. We just think it's good practice anyway. So we would recommend doing something like that for any pool that we designed, no matter the state.
And one thing we may want to consider, and you were just, kind of talking about it. So given, storm shelter, so I mean, if a storm would come up on the pool, I mean, even if we was to have a room that didn't have a window, just to have a safe place for people to go to, it doesn't have a window in it, is probably not a bad thing, from, taking shelter during a storm, so we can kind of keep that in mind as well. That's our design.
Yeah. For some of the amenities, this sheet here, this really gives options of the different play features, and these numbers here, the 50 ST, the A2, they coordinate with some line items in the estimate that I prepared for the study. These are visual graphics of each of those. Now, I will say this 75 ST, it does have a bucket. The house is not included in the estimate that I have in my the line item that I have for my estimate. We can clarify that. These are two different manufacturers of water slides. Similar in style to kind of what you have. 12-foot tall, 11-foot tall, open flume. This is a picture of an aqua climb. These come in sections. You can pair them, triple them. You can have 3-panel high, 4-panel high, 5-panel high. We do a lot of 4-panel. This in the background is an aqua zip. And this is a picture of a child actually using the aqua zip. So they'll grab the rope, they'll swing out to the end and drop in the water. Some different ways to get activities in the pool.
I noticed you had put the aqua climb in the location of the lap area. Would that interfere with the lap pool area?
Yeah, so one of the challenges with these, we have to have our safety clearance from our diving board. Something like, it comes out something like this. It's 8 feet each way. We have to be 10 feet here and it's 16 feet out. We have a similar safety drop zone for these that come out about 10 feet. And then 5 feet each way. John Kelly does not like these overlapping. In Wisconsin, what we've been able to do and what they allow us to do is we can rotate the use of these two features where diving boards are, for the first half hour, the diving boards are open and then they shut it down, and then the aqua climb is open so they can rotate. So it's kind of to be able to use these both at the same time, these lane lines would either have to be on this wall where the diving board is, or they'd have to be over here, unless we figured a different way to orient them. One of the challenges with the aqua climbs is when you get to, these 4-tier assemblies, we need about 9 feet of water depth. So we have to have it in a deeper water zone. Areas like this for the aqua zip, we need about 42 inches of water. So these can be shallower. These we can't, like to set it over here. We could potentially do that if we grew the depth of this diving well, and then these could stay open all the time. We would lose the basketball hoop, but we could potentially move that basketball hoop to a different location, or you would just have one. But that's one of the challenges with when we start to add more of this stuff, we start to get an overlap into the use areas. And this just happens to be one of those instances. Any other questions? Okay. Here's a picture of the larger shade structure, 2-pole shade structure, some floor gushers. These are different types of floor sprays, some of the sailcloths, shade sails like I showed at the concessions area. These are representative of a lot of the picnic tables that we'll use. Basketball hoops. And then these are some nice cantilevered shade structures. Give you a representation of sort of the scale and level of finish.
Those shade structures, would they stay up even in the off season?
No,
Or-
these cloths will come down. So you'll take them down, put them in storage, and you'll just have the frame. That's the same for these sun sail shades as well. You'll want to take those down, help extend the life of them.
What's the lifespan of these shades?
A lot of those are, they're 10 to 15 years. It's a pretty heavy duty fabric on them. They've really come a long way. That it's not a canvas. It's it's a polymer. It's like a UV coated polymer. So it really does a good job of keeping the its color and not breaking down in the weather. A lot of these posts are powder coated. That's a powder coated post. Same thing with pretty much all these shade structures. They're either stainless or a steel that's been powder coated, and they're really durable. And there's a lot of options with these ground sprays, a lot of different options. And they're really cost effective. You can put one of these sprays in for a few $100s. I mean, it's a really inexpensive way to get some activation. Second, I'm gonna try to pull up the estimate and walk through that with you.
I have a question on like the activities and stuff with that current configuration. Is there a recommended amount of lifeguards that requires? Because sometimes we have a little bit difficult time getting, and that might adjust for what activities you would put in. And I know Nick's probably got a better handle on that because he kind of runs that, so, but just to be an estimate of how many you think you would need.
Yeah, really good question. So right now we're looking at 3 on deck lifeguards, which means you probably have another one in concessions and maybe another one on rotation. So you're probably looking at 4 to 5 working on it in any given day.
Yeah, that's generally what last time I was been to the pool, there's 2 or 3 of them down there on.
Yeah.
Around the
Yeah,
pool
we have to
area.
have one at the diving area. We have one at the shallow area here, and then we need to monitor the water slide. So 4.
For the guard check, is there like a first aid station or somewhere if somebody gets hurt?
Yeah, we currently don't have a dedicated first aid room. But if you did have an incident, you would bring them into this lifeguard office area. You'd have a defibrillator in here. You'd have all your first aid kit. That may be in a station in the back of the office, but this would be your dedicated area to bring somebody in.
That's how we currently have it set up, isn't it? That's kind of been.
In the, yeah, it's behind Like when you come in. Yeah, that's when they have the first thing.
Like the, when you check in and then you have that like other portion of the room where you can come in through the second door, it's right in here, that's right.
Do you have pictures of the entryway? 'Cause I know right now we have
Pictures of the entryway.
yeah, cause are we gonna have like roll down doors or gonna be like regular double doors? Like what kind of like structure do you use for entryways?
So, yeah, so right now, what I have shown are double doors coming in and double doors going out. I tend to have these be full light doors for the daylighting. I didn't hear the last part of that question. It was a little a little muffled. And this is
Okay.
something that I can create some exterior renderings of as well. This is a 3D model. So I could provide an exterior imagery of the building and the pool itself.
Yeah,
Actually,
if it's double doors, would there be a post in the middle? I was thinking if they had to get a stretcher because they ended up doing something there.
actually what I can do, I'll do this off the screen. Bear with me a second. I'll pull my model up. Here, I'm going to load up my 3D software. There we go. So I don't know if that kind of helps. I don't have sidewalks or anything here. It's more of a working model.
Just throw them over the fence.
The one thing I did like about that first plan was that the diving board, your back was towards the west. Because I don't know, I feel like it'd be a little uncomfortable facing the west. Coming off of the board, staring at the sun,
It is really intense when it goes down,
it's bright over there, yes.
because there's
Yeah, so-
nothing to obscure it, or there's nothing to block it whatsoever.
Yeah, so this rendering is the first option. Yeah, this guy.
I noticed in the second option, you have the slide on this east side of the pool.
Yes,
Is that right?
that's
Right?
correct. That's correct.
Now, is there additional lighting that normally goes over the slide at all for the evening, nighttime?
Yeah, oftentimes if we know that we're gonna be using it at night,
Uh-huh.
we have even put sort of a roof on this, whether it be
Okay.
fabric or whatever. And it's a really good opportunity to put some security lighting on. It's nice, it's up high. We can light up this area where the water slide is in the water. So to answer your question, yes, I would
Okay,
say this would definitely be a place to put lighting.
okay, because my thought was if we wanted to be sure to not infringe on the neighbors with the light pollution or whatever you call it. It is maintaining the water slide on the west side, which is where it currently is now, I believe. And keeping it on the west side.
Correct. And keep in mind, we can take this same layout and flip it,
Okay,
right? So
yeah,
the water slide's now over here. There's nothing special about why this deep end is here versus over on this end. Same thing with this. We can flip this either way.
okay.
Um,
I didn't know if your deep end section could butt up against the that intermediate section if they were on the side together, you know what I mean? Adjacent to one another. Because right now, I think the deep end, the 9-10 foot, and kind of looks like it sits alone on both renderings.
yeah, you're talking about this diving well.
Yeah, yeah, if you flip it, like on the other rendering,
Yep.
and put the water slide on the west side, then you would have that sort of intermediate pool area on the east side. How is that causing an issue to have the two areas adjacent in the pool? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a good question. So if we took this area here, right, and basically just took this pool area and put it there,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And then this area comes down here, right? We just flip them, keep the
right.
diving well there. Yeah, no,
Uh,
you can bring it up and transition it. We just need the safety ropes to
okay,
cordon it off. We need to demark it on the pool and the wall that there's a change in slope. And then we
okay,
need to do the safety float barriers. But you can absolutely do that. This float rope could run right across there. This one could tee end it just like it normally does. And then um you'd have this sort of a area for your water. We would just need to separate this from this. But absolutely.
I didn't know, like, with today's building of pools, if that would be a significant cliff or drop off from that 5 foot to 10 foot section, or if it sort of has a slope. Right now, I think it has a slope currently, but I mean, I didn't know if how it's designed nowadays, if there's pretty extreme drop off or not.
Yeah, this is a steeper drop off, but that doesn't mean if we want to pursue something like this, that these dash lines they represent each foot of depth, water depth, and
Okay,
it helps
okay,
you see the slope. But we could
okay,
take this diving board, slide it over a little bit, start to move these over to
okay.
make it be a little bit more gradual,
Okay.
right? To soften that up. It doesn't get us away from having to do the float ropes. So that's going to be a must have.
Okay.
Which is fine. It's a good safety item. But yeah, I actually think I want to say Dubuque has a pool that has this setup where they have a deep hopper and then a 5 foot. I can't remember if it's Flora or Sutton, but one of them has this shallower area next to a deeper area.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, orientation, we can do whatever we want.
Okay.
The nice
we
thing
could-
about this is it does really keep kind of the light focus pointing away from these neighbors.
Yeah. And we can add or subtract any of the amenities too, is that? on the-
Absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely. And what we've seen communities do, like for instance, that lacrosse pool, we put in 2 of these shade structures within the construction contract, the bid documents, and we had like 3 or 4 other ones that were quote unquote future. And they had friends of the pool and neighborhood community fundraise, and then the following year they came and installed these shade structures on the foundations that we gave them. You can set these pools up to where, you know, any of these things can be added down the road. Like for instance, this aqua climb, you can add that at any time. So
okay,
you could start with, even if you didn't want to have it, you know, as part of the construction budget, and you wanted to fundraise for it, and you could do it in single or double or triple format. And what I've done is I've detailed in a grounding lug in the location where these would go. And it just has a little cap screw on it to keep it plugged. And when the time comes that they want to bolt these down, and they just bolt to the pool deck, you just tie your grounding rod to that little grounding rod that I put in there, and you're all bonded and you're good to go. You just need to know where you're going to put them. If you are going to put them in the future. So like you wouldn't have to do this. You wouldn't have to do an aqua zip. You could put sleeves in for basketball hoops and get basketball hoops later, or you could get the portable ones and move them around wherever you want. Things like this are easy to add down the road. Same thing with the shade structures, you know, to put a 4 foot deep, 5 foot deep pier that's 18 inches around, that really doesn't cost you much in construction. You can put those in for not much money.
Is there a weight limit for the climbing wall?
Yes, I could look that up for you.
I just foresee a lot of management having to happen and hurt feelings for some of our kiddos that may not be able to climb.
Yeah, let me take a look.
Or if there can only be a certain number of kids on it.
right, and it gets, yeah. I just like the idea of the 2 dedicated lap lanes that would be there. All the time, just because we do have adults that would, or youth that would like to do lap swim. And not have to worry about running into the masses for the rest of the pool.
Or having to go super early in the morning.
Yeah, 7
Yeah.
AM. Yeah,
One of the things that Nick had mentioned is he said, you know, if we had lap lanes that were usable over like the lunch hour, he said we'd definitely get people there using them. Or midday, right? If you had these open and they could, you know, where they didn't have to be there first thing in the morning, but they could use them in the morning hours before 1 or 1:30, that they would definitely get used. Yeah, the big thing with this is being able to program as much of it as you can.
yeah,
To use as much of it as you can.
awesome. Now, the estimate.
Yes, oh, the fun part.
Which,
Yeah, I'm just trying to look, I'm just trying to answer your weight limit question.
yeah, I mean, that
If
is
they
a,
have it.
it is a real issue. Um, It looks like the costs between the 2 the two designs are relatively close.
Yeah, I don't know that we changed the water area significantly. 1 second here, let me pull that up.
And maybe we could look at piecing a few things out for fundraising or patron
No,
financial support attempts or something like that.
yeah. So option one. Yeah, what we see is like in these side amenities, some of these things we start to fundraise for. And people doing things like that. So for the pool, right, okay, option one, 7,400. And then option two was, yeah, 8,150. So a little bit bigger on option two. And that's the one with the large zero entry. I do have different information for the different types of play features that I've given to Nick. I don't know if that was, I can't remember if that was part of the submittal that I shared with them. Second here.
And this is, this would go under the Buildings and Grounds Committee, is that correct? To further investigate this? Is that clear? Or no,
She's back here.
or,
What's that?
or
What's that?
Shari, this would go under or be forwarded to like Park and Rec Board, Buildings and Grounds Committee?
So the Park and Recreation Board has reviewed the
Okay.
feasibility study and they asked to have it proceed forward to have the work session with council.
Okay,
But just to make sure, I think that when you get into the design, most likely then you would send it back to the Park and Rec Board and then they would go through
okay.
a process of the design.
But
And yeah,
would the committee first look at it and then send it to Park and Rec Board, or we do it as a whole under work session?
We can do it as a whole.
Council as a whole, okay.
Underneath the work session, especially that size.
so
Okay,
I'm gonna take, so the practices like with the playground redesigns and
okay,
even going clear back to the sports complex. So the Park and Recreation, they had managed it and they got it down to, essentially 2 designs.
mhm,
And then those designs then, went to the council, from their point, and then the budgetary, the financial. And then how that was gonna be, is that?
yeah,
So based on my
yeah.
understanding, this had went to the Park and Recreation Board. This is what they have now sent to council.
Okay. I don't mean to call it short, but it is 7:22. And we do have to hear it for the regular council meeting at 7:30. So what I'd like to see happen, maybe from this point is whether or not people would be interested in digesting this material, and then we could review it with another work session to kind of zero in on what we really kind of want to get out of this. Does that sound appropriate?
Maybe we can take it in and see.
Yeah, and then kind of see what our needs would be specific to our,
And give an opportunity to have Nick, be here.
absolutely,
to
absolutely.
Walk council through.
And get his take on the
Yeah.
different sites or amenities. Yeah,
Yep.
Yeah.
And the one thing I'd like to share with you, because I completely blew right by it. When we looked at figuring out the amenities, I searched out every pool within this green oval and then listed them all up at the top. right? So each one of these pools, how far it is away, indoor, outdoor, whatever, how many vessels, and then
Okay.
documented what amenities they had and don't have. So that way you're looking at what amenities, right? You see there's no aqua zip, there's no aqua climb. Very few have a play elevation or basketball. You don't want to necessarily double up on what everybody else is doing. You want to create something that is different.
Right,
Um,
and that's a good point. That's a good point. Okay.
Yeah, so when you're thinking about those amenities and those features, we created this to give you some sort of a datum point to reference off of, saying what is really out there in our neighboring communities, this 30-mile radius. And then just some images of each of those vessels. And I only included the 8 pool vessels that were most appropriate from a scale and size standpoint to what West Liberty may be looking at. So I would say if you get a chance, maybe take a look at this. You can see what these communities have. Right? North Liberty, these guys, you don't need to be everything to everybody, right? You don't need to be Washington Steel, but you need to be something that's going to serve your community. And are you talking about people within a 15-mile radius?
Out of
Right.
curiosity, how much square footage is the Washington Steel pool?
It's big. I want to say, I
Is
actually
it
have.
over 8,000?
Oh yeah, I have those plans. I just did a filter replacement job for them.
Okay, okay.
I want to say it's 12 to 15.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's
wow.
significantly bigger.
Okay.
I can actually pull it up.
No, that's okay. I just was curious.
Yeah, so I started to and I could even add this on here, but I started to, Kelowna is small. It's not going to be comparable to what you want. Wapello is small. I don't think I showed Kyoto. But Kyoto is more like Wapello.
Okay,
And there's nothing in Kelowna. Coralville, this is stuff that you don't have. I don't think you
Yeah.
need this big thing. Yeah,
okay,
Washington's big.
okay. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think when Nick, we'll plan a time for our work session again with Nick here. Yeah,
yeah, that would be great. It probably would go a little smoother.
No, you did good, Chad.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
yeah,
But yeah, if there's any questions, if you want to send them to me, feel free. And we can, as you're thinking through this, and we can collate them and get responses back. If there's any information on the features that you want to see, just let me know, and I'll be happy to chase it down and get it to you.
excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay.
All right, I will log off. You guys have a great evening.
Thank you.
All right,
Yep.
and work session. And let's just give about 5 minutes while we regroup the meeting.